And welcome. I'm Bill Newell from MSO News Sports, and Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, Nick Kukuru are all here and talking some sports. And we have a bunch of things to discuss in this week's podcast, or Zoomcast, if you will. But let's begin with things that are happening, as usual, if you will, golf. So Nick G, so give us a little update on some of the golf events that have been happening so far in the last week or so.
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, the PGA is back in full swing, and so is the amateur circuit here, especially, around here in Massachusetts and the North Shore. And what a summer it's been for some of our guys, especially these guys from St. John's Prep. I mean, it's been a blessing for us, too, to be able to just have these guys tearing it up and have the live events that we can get out and cover. So I guess I'll go with Nick Macario first. He's been tearing it up this summer, 28-year-old from the Prep. Always kind of been right there in the amateur circuit, but this year he began his season with 4 straight runner-ups in like major amateur tournaments. That included the Mass Amateur, the New England Amateur, the We Met Memorial, and then he finally won one last week at the Hornblower Invitational out in so he's going to be up for golfer of the year, amateur golfer of the year in Massachusetts. I mean, he's been incredible. It's probably been his best career as an amateur golfer, or best season, I should say. Then we got Chris Francoeur, the younger guy. He's going to be a senior at University of Rhode Island this fall. I'm not sure if they're going to be having their season. I know a lot of schools have already canceled, even for golf. But he's been terrific this summer as well. He beat out Macario 1 week by a stroke and then lost to him by a stroke the next week. But he's got that We Met Memorial title under his belt, and he had a great performance at the Massachusetts Amateur as well, going to the semifinals. So a lot of great golf being played from those guys. And then more locally, we had the annual North Shore Amateur at Far Corner this past week, which is always a great event. The Flynn's put it on there. It's in honor of Bill Flynn, Bob's dad. Bob's the owner now. Bill Flynn passed away quite a while ago now, but he had started this tournament back in 1975 over at Thompson Country Club and Far Corner, and now they're just running it at Far Corner. And just, it really draws in a lot of good golfers around here, a lot of young guys that are kind of trying to break into the amateur circuit, which is cool. And this year we had no rain, so they were able to get both days of golf in, which was great. I think Bob said like 6 of the past 10 years they've had to make it just a one-day tournament due to weather. So it was nice to get to play both days. And Phil, one of your good friends there from Danvers High, Jared Messiz, a hockey guy, he came out on top. So that was a big win for him. He's only 19 years old. That was cool to see him get it done. He shot the only under par round of the entire event, which was great. So shout out to Jared and all these other golfers that are having great summers. I'm sure I left out a lot of names, but those are the 3 that have kind of broken through here recently. Obviously, the Emmerich brothers have been great this summer from Swampscott. Stephen Delisio has been right there as well. The Duke guy just played the Prep. So we are blessed with a lot of great golfers here on the North Shore. It's been fun.
Hey, let me throw you guys a quick question here. Speaking about following up on what Nick just said. So if you're a good golfer, what would your second sport be, or your first sport, and you're also a good golfer? You know what I'm saying? Are hockey players good golfers? Are baseball players good golfers? Football players? What do you think?
And golf go hand in hand a lot. A lot of guys that play hockey play golf, or a lot of guys, I feel like, and Phil, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of times too, guys that played hockey when they were younger will give up the sport at some point and then switch over to golf. And the transition is a little bit easier because you got that base. With the hockey swing is a lot more like a golf swing rather than a baseball swing and a golf swing. I think baseball is a little more tricky. That you might not hit it as consistently, but hockey, for whatever reason, the mechanics are similar enough where you can succeed in both.
I do think baseball and hockey tend to be guys who are good in that also tend to be decent golfers too, from the pros right on down to the high school level. When you're talking about Jared's a big boy. I mean, I want to say off the top of my head, 6'3", maybe 6'4", Nick.
Yeah, he's
And
just about my height. I was standing next to him, maybe a smidge taller, to be honest, and I'm 6'3", so he's a big boy.
and he's got a powerful frame that he certainly used to his advantage in the hockey rink, but on the golf course, it's different set of skills he's using, and not only just to power the ball on the long drives, but also to have some touch on those lobs and wedges and things like that. He's really got a strong game, and for the most part, Nick, guys who succeed in golf are really kind of either tall and wiry or just kind of compact. And he's a little bit different than that. Obviously, Willie, who's the kid from Peabody there that played at Endicott? Who was he's a big guy, but he could really power the ball. He was in some long drive. Yeah.
I can't think of his first name. What was his
Ethan,
first?
right?
That sounds right.
Ethan Goulish. Yeah, he was a big kid, but he could really smash the ball. So, and speaking of golf, Nick, we got something going on over at your corner of the woods this coming week, right? At Essex Country Club.
Yeah, with Mass Women's Amateur over at Essex Country Club, Tuesday through Friday, I believe it is. Well, a lot of golfers from the area in that one.
Yeah, I imagine that's a similar format as the guys, probably a day or two of stroke play and then right into match play.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Essex, of course, has really been a friend of women's golf for a long, long time, dating back to the earliest part of the 20th century when they've had some championships there. So that's a great layout to have an event like that in.
Oh, for sure. They get all the good women's events. I mean, was it about 10 years ago they had the Curtis Cup, which was kind of like the Women's Ryder Cup type deal, and I think it's for amateurs. But everyone who was in it was on the PGA, the LPGA tour in the next year.
Yeah.
Well, I once covered years ago the old LPGA event that was up at the Fern Crop. Maybe several years it was up there, or maybe just the one time. I can't remember, but that was in Danvers at the Fern Crop. Well, guys want to shift to baseball? Nick Kukuru, you want to tell us what's happening baseball-wise up in the Cape Ann area?
Yeah, I mean, ITL was starting to wrap up, and it's still pretty wide open with a weekend to go. It looks like a 3-team race for first. The Raleigh Rams are 7-3; they're finished, and then you got the Rockport Townies at 6-2, and the Hamilton Generals at 6-3 right behind them. I think Generals have one game remaining.
Generals, fight.
Yeah, so it's still for grabs. Those top 2 spots get bye to the semis, and then the other 4 teams will play in a 1-game playoff. So you really want those top 2 spots this year. It looks like it's going to come down to the final day.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
Is Justin Bola still mashing for the Raleigh Rams over there?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. All right. Kind of figured as much.
They're always around.
Yeah.
Willie, any thoughts on baseball, down in the southern part of Essex County?
I think the interesting thing this week is the North Shore League, the men's league. The playoffs are pretty tight. You got 2 teams at the top that you don't expect to see, Northeast and Rowley, and some teams of veterans fighting down at the bottom of the standings. And there's going to be 8 teams in the playoffs, so 4 will go home. Looks like I'm looking at the standings now. This is on Friday around 1 that we're recording, and so Friday night's games haven't happened yet. But in the loss column, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams between 4 and 7 losses, and everybody's got 2 or 3 games this weekend. So there's going to be a lot of jockeying for position and playoffs. It's going to be pretty crazy. I know Northeast Tides has got some young college-type players from, the Merrimack Valley area, and that's, going to be real interesting to see how they respond if a team of, 30, 35-year-old veteran guys from Peabody Champions or Swampscott Sox winds up in that 8 seed and comes to town for the playoffs. It's almost sort of like the old war horses, getting ready to go against the young guns, and do these young guns have what it really takes to go up against these old guys? We'll see what happens. So that's been a real interesting race to watch over these last few weeks. Once these guys got on the field about a month ago, I think it took everybody a little time to get going, but here we are, and playoffs are coming, so that's exciting.
Do you have any Mike Giardi stats you can share with us? How's he doing this year?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that he has. I don't know if he's extended his home run streak. He's got that record where he's hit at least one home run every season, for 25 consecutive seasons or something. So he may need to get himself some at-bats here this weekend. It does not look like he has Mike Gallo, Andrew. Yeah, it does not look like – oh, there he is, Mike Giardi. He does not have any home runs yet. He's got 3 ribbies and 12 at-bats, and he's hitting .333. So, not bad. But, geez, I'm just seeing this league has got some pros in it this year. Looks like the Pub has got Spencer Brown. I'm not sure how they wrestled him away from the Beverly Rex. Maybe Matt Mello used all of his signing bonus money to get Brandon Bingle, who's one of his number 1 pitchers right now. I think the Rex might be in trouble if Bing has to sign as a replacement player with the Marlins or the Cardinals,
Might have plied him with some steak tips.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Rex managed to get Pat Rotolo for a little while too, which was kind of a coup. And all of us that live in Peabody, we always wanted to know what would happen if Bingle and Rotolo were actually on the same team. And now it's managed to happen over there in Beverly, so that's interesting too.
You mean former Peabody High defenseman Pat Rotolo, correct?
Yes. I believe he may or may not have used a left-hand hockey stick. So there's that.
Yeah.
And as far as the Navigators, I know I was just kind of checking that out, and they're down to about 12 games remaining. The Navigators, like a week and a half left in their regular season, and they're hovering right around the 500 mark. They got off to that great start to start the year, unlike in the past several years where they get off to horrible starts and then come back on later on. But they're actually they're right around the 500 mark, and so I don't know what that means for the playoffs, but some of these college players may not have to report back to school in the fall, the way UMass Amherst has no students. They made that announcement this week. But anyways, their season will be wrapping up soon. It's coming. It's coming down.
The Navs have lost, I think, 2 home run derbies of late.
Yeah.
I feel like the standings needs like a loser point like they have in hockey, I don't know if you got, I love the concept of a home run derby. Like, nobody needs to be sitting here for 15 hours and 15 innings of Navs baseball. Most people don't want to watch that much Red Sox baseball. So, I think the home run derby is a really cool thing, but you should get like a half a game or a point or something, for getting it to the home run derby. That could end up costing them playoffs. Those 2 losses, that kind of stinks, but,
Yeah, they're 2 games under 500 now after that loss last night in the Derby.
Interesting fun fact, the pitcher who was throwing to Mr. Keegan, who hit 13 home runs, the big-time hitting guy for Vanderbilt for Nashua, was one-time St. John's Prep catcher Jack Aaron. So there's a fun fact for you. Jack obviously served up the balls exactly where Dom wanted them, and he smashed 13 home runs in that derby. So, that's an impressive display of power for sure.
Yeah, they decide their game. Dingers. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick. I
was just saying that's a lot of dingers.
Yeah, there was been some in the past over the years. There was some. I remember back in the. I go way back, but the old White Sox team, which was a very formidable team back in maybe the 70s, late 60s, 70s. They didn't have any power, but so they could end a game. They should do it. Flip a coin, fielder's choice to win a game. Maybe a home run, something like that, a bunt, things like that. There are different ways to win baseball games. And, let's put a runner on third and try to bunt him home or something like that, or a fielder's choice. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which White Sox are you talking about? Like the Ralph Garr White Sox?
Louis Aparicio White Sox.
Okay.
Peters was one of their pitchers who later came to the Red Sox. Those
Gary
teams.
Peters, yeah.
Gary Peters,
Okay.
yeah. I forgot how some. They had No Neck. They had No Neck Williams on that team. They can't have nicknames like that anymore. No Neck Williams.
No.
But
Is that me? Am I supposed to go like this? Is that, what, is that the deal there?
that's it. That's it exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Speaking of the-
that's I was going to say, I think that's late 60s, Bill. The
Yeah.
era I'm thinking of is like mid to late 70s. And I say that because it makes me think of like the baseball cards I had when I was a kid. And I know we've talked about this in the past, but we do in our newspapers in Salem and Gloucester every Monday. The four of us kind of pick a topic and say what our favorite is. So this coming week, we talk about our favorite sports cards we liked when we were younger. It just made me think of some of those old White Sox guys. I was a Ralph Garr fan when I was younger because I thought that was a great last name, like Garr, Garr. And you read about his story, and it was just kind of funny.
Like being a point guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That was the very probably the late 60s, mid to late, it had to be the late 60s, something like that when that
Wilbur
that
Wood.
was going. Wilbur Wood, back before he went to the knuckleball, So
Now, my high school baseball coach, the great Doug Linehan, played at Belmont High School with Wilbur Wood, so we heard about him all the time.
Yeah.
And he was a guy who, again, in the age when pitchers could throw, like he literally threw 370 innings and had like 22 wins and 18 losses. Crazy numbers. 4-man pitching staff. So we heard all about Wilbur Wood when I was playing high school baseball.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I want to go to fall sports. I don't want to neglect that. So we are going to talk about the fall sports thing and what we know and what we don't know. But are there any topics other than fall sports, local fall sports, that we should get in before we do that, gentlemen?
Just quickly, go ahead, Willie.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just quickly, we had some locals involved in some hockey action, Hockey Night in Boston Showcase. Willie, you could probably talk about the girls taking place this weekend, but some of the boys played in the annual summer showcase last week up in New Hampshire over 4 days. Kooks, there was some guys from your area playing. The Connor Vitans was playing. Abreu, Costanza, some of those guys were taking part from our readership area. A lot of St. John's Prep guys, Bishop Fenwick, some Masconomet guys. Real good showing, actually, for Peabody High's Andrew Phillips. He had, I think, 5 goals in 4 games. So he played pretty well. And, good chance for those guys not only to take part in some actual competition, but against some other really good teams. There were 20 teams involved altogether. Stretch their legs, show what they could do, have a few eyes on them, maybe catch some glimpses for the future. So it was good to see those guys out there competing and getting a chance to play.
Hey, I got a couple of names from the 67 White Sox: Tommy Agee, Don Buford, Walt Williams, Ken Berry, Jerry Adair later came to the Red Sox that year.
And Tommy Agee was on the Miracle Mets, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep. Hoyt Wilhelm. Yeah, Rocky Colavito, I guess, was on that same, for the White Sox back then.
So they did have a little bit of power.
He was a slugger, yeah. But
yeah, he was a slugger.
So
I'm gonna have to brush up on my White Sox history here. I don't think I recognize a single one of those names.
Yeah, that came right out of the blue. I'm sorry about that for everyone. I apologize. That won't happen again. Okay.
Well, if it happened before 1995, Nick probably wouldn't know about it. So
Yeah, that was about 30 years before I was born, so that's probably why.
Hey, Abraham Lincoln was 100 years before I was born. I know about him.
Hey, Juan Pizarro. There's another name out of the past, a pitcher.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, there you go, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, fall sports. What are we hearing here? I'll just set this up. We're hearing this week from a few schools: Lynn, Swampscott, and I believe it was now Beverly. Other schools will be chiming in soon. The high school kids won't be going back into class. They'll be remote learning. Having said that, though, there is no rule as of now, as we speak, that prohibits fall sports from not happening, just in case kids are not in the classroom. Apparently, there was a rumor that was out there, but apparently that's not the case, albeit unlikely that would be the case. Oops, let me
It
shut
seemed
that
like
off.
the MIA walked it back. Initially,
Yes,
they
right.
had said that, if you weren't in person, that you couldn't participate in schools. But now, like everything else, they have to change on the fly and adapt. And clearly they want to try to make this work if at all possible. So they're going to have to be able to do that. The interesting thing with Beverly is I know that like the high schools won't be going to school, but some of the younger grades will. So I thought that was interesting, but that doesn't really affect the fall sports there.
And not to interrupt, but have they said if they're going to do that for the whole school year or just beginning with the first semester or what?
No, I think it's just to start and see how things are. See how the cases go across the state.
And I
Yeah.
think for the case in Beverly, Phil, I believe their first day of school is September 16th, which again is a good plan, I believe, because it allows the school to ramp this up for, teachers could come back in after Labor Day, like per usual. I'm guessing that's how it's going to work. And then they plan for whatever they're going to do with the elementary schools where kids may go back to school or may not, but they'll have a couple of weeks to get prepared. Having said that, that impacts the date set by the MIAA that said practices could start September 14th. Now we know that that's likely going to have to be pushed back, even if there were to be practices.
Yeah, and we're starting to hear people say some of the things that we're talking about, like maybe there are some schools get moved to, some sports get moved, traditional fall sports get moved to some time frame in the next spring. In a Q&A we did with Beverly High football coach this week, Ian DeMorency, he said he thought it would be great if they could play in the spring. Of course, realizing that, some of his players play baseball, they run track, they play lacrosse, so that could run into some problems. But then I hear about the 4-season model where, some sports that are safe can play a fall season and winter season has their thing. And then the sports that couldn't play in the fall maybe play between March and April, whether that's football or soccer or volleyball or whatever. And then the spring season runs from May and June. I think, is that Rhode Island maybe that's taking a look at that plan? And Willie, I know you've mentioned before that we don't want to, and I agree with you, I don't think we want to be followers. I think Massachusetts wants to kind of set its own guidelines here, but as of yet, because we don't know what's going to come down from the DC or from Governor Baker and his staff, we don't really know what kind of plans they're going to be yet. So it's all just speculative at this point.
I don't think that the spring football thing is safe. I don't think it should happen. I was on a call yesterday with a Division I football coach, and he mentioned that they may play spring football, but he wants it over by April. If they start going into May and June for their spring season, that's not going to be enough time for the players to recover for the following September. So now I'm thinking about, okay, wait, as an analogy, if the MIA starts trying to play football in March and April, how many Division I scholarship signees, how many coaches are going to say, you're not doing that. You're not breaking your leg 2 months before you're supposed to come to me. Sometimes kids graduate early and go to Division I schools to enroll for spring football in college. So they're not going to be playing spring football in high school. And I think, for a 3-season athlete, you ask them to play 3 condensed seasons in a row like that. You're asking for wear and tear. You're asking for, joint injuries, tendon injuries, things like that. I think from a sports medicine, this all sounds great from a virus standpoint. I think from a sports medicine standpoint, there's going to be a lot of stuff about this that's not creating enough rest for kids. I'd be worried about overuse injuries. I think, again, it stinks for football maybe, but if it's safe to play soccer right now, you're better off playing a condensed soccer season in October and November than trying to play a condensed soccer and golf season in March and April. That's just my personal feeling on the matter. But a light bulb went off in my head when that coach said, well, we got to get our spring football over with in time to get ready for the following fall, because I hadn't really thought about that before. And it's like, yeah, you know what? there's a lot of overuse and potential injuries if you try to squeeze all this in right in a row like that.
Aren't there areas of the country that still play spring football though?
I don't think so. High school?
I don't know of
Yeah.
any. Maybe flag football.
I think a bunch of states have already moved their fall football season to the spring. I think 10 states, I want to say.
Oh, really?
Well, for the virus, but I mean, I think there's going to be a raft of,
Permanently.
As you guys were talking, I was thinking this. I'm thinking that now, the way things look today, our best case scenario is we get back to some kind of a normal in January, if in fact there's a vaccine. Okay, let's just say that. Let's throw that out there. And so now, if I'm a high school or college, I guess, what do you do? Do you do all these rescheduling and mess things up and run into all this stuff, or you just say, all right, fall sports, you're going to take a hit just like spring sports took a hit, and there's nothing we can do about it. We're just going to move on and resume our lives under, again, best case scenarios, first of the year. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how, can you do a 3-week or 4-week football season starting in March? I mean, that sounds crazy to me, but maybe they can do it. I don't know.
I think it's certainly, very certainly on the table that the entire fall is going to be scrapped. None of us want to have to think of it that way, but it could be. They might just say, like you said, Bill, hey, we're sorry it happened in the spring. It's going to happen to you guys, but we really want to do this right. And we're going to try January 1st to see if we can make this happen. I certainly hope it doesn't come to that, but again, from what I'm hearing, some people are preparing for the worst.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I say we have 60 seconds left or so, a minute. Anybody want to put a final thought on this, on what we've talked about so far?
Shout out to the Lynn Invitational softball. Great to have some girls sports going on in the area. Safe, ready to go. So another example of the youth sports that are able to give these kids the experience they need. And, that's a great thing. And I think, to me, the more examples that stack up like this that are safe, the more evidence we have that we can probably do some stuff. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I was thinking earlier today that it would be nice to see if somebody kind of bucked the trend and tried to go back, to school and see what it looked like. I mean, because we're seeing elementary kids possibly doing it, but not high school kids. But having said that, I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying it would, just to get data, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out in other parts of the country, to see how that does work.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, great seeing you, from our homes. But guys, have a great week, and we'll talk again soon.